Yeah, thank you, Garlick, and thank you, Minister. Minister, I accept fully that we don't want to be nodding heads after the fact, but it seems like we're being asked to be nodding heads before the facts here, which is a very strange situation to be in. Minister, just a couple of questions. You told us, you kind of presented that you had an understanding that the Commission wouldn't enter negotiations without some form of human rights framework as the basis of negotiations. Could you just give us an understanding of how you've come to that conclusion? Was this a conversation you've had? Just how you've come to that conclusion yourself? And then are there examples that you are aware of where the EU have entered into these readmission agreements and have removed themselves based on an awareness of human rights breakdown or issues, and have removed themselves from the agreement with those once those facts had been attained?
Thanks, Deputy. Like, to answer your question straight, I know it because I've been informed about it by my officials in the department. In terms of human rights, in terms of ensuring that human rights is central to this agreement, it is in the negotiating mandate. And in terms of the other readmission agreements that have been agreed, the 12 of them I recounted, each of them contains human rights provisions. So that's why it's going to be in this one as well.
Yeah, but in terms of, we both know that there are people being deported back to, people being sent back to countries for various reasons where human rights don't have particularly high human rights standards. So if a person, hypothetical person, comes here from Kazakhstan, for example, they may be in some form of political conflict. They may have fled here for issues in relation to their sexuality. We all know that there is scenarios where they don't want to come forward because their family might be targeted in a hypothetical Kazakhstani situation. I mean, that is not going to be factored in here.
People who come from Kazakhstan to Ireland and who have that persecution that you've outlined, they will give that narrative to the International Protection Office. And the office will assess their application, and if it's genuine and the office accepts it, they'll be granted asylum here. So their human rights are protected in that process. This only arises if somebody has gone through that process, gone through the appeal, probably gone through a judicial review, and or they just arrive here and they don't claim asylum and they're here illegally. And we're just trying to say, listen, you're not entitled to be here, you have to go. And if they don't go, what do we do?
Yeah, Minister, you know we're going to have different views in relation to that.
But sorry, no, I think our views will be relatively similar. Like, if it gets to the case where, and like you'll accept as well as I do, Deputy, that if there is a situation where somebody is in Ireland and there's no human rights issue associated with them and they're not entitled to be here, like, unless we have agreements in place, or unless we can ring up the other country and say, listen, when you take this person back, the best option for us is to have an agreement in place with the other country.
So, Minister, you'll know as well as I do that there are people here who have claiming asylum who cannot prove the violation that they can speak to, for fear that they may be their country may be contacted and their family will be targeted as a consequence of that. That's a regular issue that happens within this country and others. So this is particularly important when we are developing new frameworks. But then also when it comes to the concept of even how we're doing this does set a bad precedent in terms of asking us to nod along to something on which we don't have the full, not even the full information, that's fair enough, but we don't even have as much information as you seem to when you're asking us to approve something. So even on the precedent to this, there is something that I find very objective to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy. Just the first point you make, like, it is an absolute rule under the 1951 Refugee Convention that you cannot contact the country of origin of a person. Just hear me out on this. You cannot contact the country of origin of a person claiming asylum. It never happens in Ireland that the International Protection Office or the government would contact the country of origin and say, by the way, this person claims asylum for X, just letting you know. It doesn't happen. In terms of the full detail, if it was the case that I had come here and I was asking you to agree to a readmission agreement between the EU and Kazakhstan, and I said, sorry, you can't see the full detail of it, like, that would be pretty unacceptable. I'm not doing that. All I'm asking is, can you give Ireland permission to allow us to opt into negotiations, to allow the European Commission to commence negotiations with Kazakhstan? Like, we commence negotiations all the time. What we're doing is commencing negotiations. There's a benefit to us doing it that way. When an agreement is reached, if we don't like what we see in the agreement, if I don't like it, we can vote against it. But also, if there's an agreement reached, it'll come back to you here and you'll be able to read the whole thing and have your democratic say. Thanks, Jim.